Awesome. All right, well, we'll get started. So thank you for being here. And so, audience, this is Bien la Puerta, claiming your space in tech. So we don't just want to show up. We want to claim our space. And I think some of you probably have that same desire. So if you are with us today in the chat, definitely add where you're checking us out from, and maybe tell us a little bit about, why you want to claim your space. Any questions for our panelists? I'm Audrey Gallo, pronouns she, her, hers, ella, and I'm on the board for Tequeria, and I'm also a DEI program director for General Assembly. It's my day job, amongst other things, lots of hats. We all wear different hats. So really excited to be your moderator today. So when you introduce yourselves to us, your name and where you're at and your role and all those good things, but also tell us why you wanted to get into the tech space in the first place. What was the draw? Why'd you show up there? So I'm going to go in order of how I see you all on my screen. So Jimena, we'll start with you.
Great. So I have been in tech actually for a long time, about 12, 13 years now. So my journey into tech was more of a stumble into tech. I was at San Francisco State. So a lot of times I say I was at the right place at the right time. My mom always told me that the careers page was the most underutilized department, or careers was the most underutilized department. And so went to the careers page, found a very vague role. It ended up being an intern opportunity at one of the premier executive recruiting firms in the Bay. So a lot of luck. I interned there for a year and a half, and then got a full-time opportunity. And that was at the time that nobody knew who Uber was, or Everlane, or Warby Parker. And so I actually think it's more interesting to think about why I stay in tech. And I think it's obviously there's a lot of innovation that happens within this industry, but it also includes innovation in how we think about work life, how we think about how companies can be organized, where employees work. So there's just a lot of creativity and innovation that you don't always see in the more maybe traditional working world. So that's my journey.
Awesome. Interesting. I love how you said I stumbled into tech. That also I know a lot of people can resonate with that as well. All right, Rebecca, we'll get over to you.
Hi, y'all. Nice to be here amongst you all. And Jimena, I'll add, I just am a firm believer that timing is everything. So that's incredible. You were definitely at the right place at the right time, right? For me, I've actually only been in tech for the past 3 years now. I found my way here in light of the pandemic. I feel like the industry I was in prior, it was hit really, really tough. I was in hospitality and the tourism industry as a former corporate event planner in marketing and sales division. So and I'm in Vegas, right? So we were hit incredibly hard during the pandemic. And that was a really tough time work-wise to try to go out and try to find a new job, because so was everyone else, right? And it's kind of we're in a very interesting time right now as well. But because of that, I feel like I had to really look into what my transferable skills were and what is it that I wanted. I took that time to really reflect and dig deep. I didn't want to just take a job to take a job. I knew the way that I work and my inner workings and mental health. I knew I had to be fulfilled, and I knew that I had to really go after that purpose of what makes me feel like I am at the right place, doing the right, and my value here will be heard and the impact will be there, right? So because of that, I knew how important it was for me to seek something that fulfilled me and aligned with what I wanted next. And that was learning and development was something that I always carried with me in everything I did. Now I'm a training facilitator at Instacart. So diving into not just tech in general, but learning so much about e-commerce and the grocery space and all this stuff that I had no idea. I used to have clients that were tech customers and tech accounts, but everyone had their own niche, right, that they specialized in. So it's been such an amazing journey of just continuously learning. And I think that is what it's all about. And I think even for you yourself showing up here today and showing that you are interested in this field and learning in something else, I think that that's what this session is all about. And I'm so excited to, just really go on that with the rest of you gals. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. I think definitely love that you're bringing that perspective of having made the transition into tech during the pandemic, coming from a different industry, and really realizing like what is your space in the tech space. So really excited to hear more about that. And then Geraldine, let's get to you. So we want to hear a little bit about who you are and your story.
Hi, everybody. My name is Geraldine Naomi Diaz. Very excited to be here with all of you. Also, I just want to highlight that it's very special that we're all from different areas of the world, areas of the United States. So I'm from New York myself, from Brooklyn, New York. And I think that I had a very similar experience to you, Rebecca, as in starting in tech after the pandemic started. I graduated college in 2019. And when I graduated, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was just out in the streets of New York vibing, essentially, going to a bunch of different networking events. And I was just like, I'm just trying to find my place, figure out where to go. And my mentor at the time was like, oh, there's a tech sales bootcamp that I think that you'll be good for. You should give it a try. And me being the person that I am, I never say no to anything. I'm a very yes woman. I'm learning not to do that anymore because boundaries. But I said yes at the time, and that started my career in tech sales. I very quickly realized that I did not enjoy it. It was very white male dominated, and I felt very outcasted in the field. I didn't feel like I belonged. So I ended up leaving the company that I was at, and I actually enjoyed the company that I was at. Great company. I just didn't enjoy what I was doing. So I do want to highlight that if you are in a position within tech that you don't like what you're doing, talk to your managers, have discussions to see if there's somewhere within the company that you can pivot, because I was having these discussions with people while I was there as well. Timing just didn't work out. So I went to a different company. And then I was like, oh, I for sure realized that I'm not into sales anymore. I was like, maybe it was just like the type of software that I was selling. And then went somewhere else, realized that it just wasn't for me, pivoted to ed tech, became a program manager, recently got laid off, but that's okay. Very happy. I feel like everything's still working out for me. And now I'm a college and career coach within the ed tech space, and I'm also an author outside of that. So also want to highlight that you can bridge your passions, whether in the tech space with like all other things that you may be interested in, because a lot of my career within the tech space was put into the first book that I wrote and also the second book that I'm writing now.
Wow, I love that. Definitely drop the link. That's to all of our panelists. We're here to promote you, support you. Like, you're inspiring others. So drop the links to websites, the resume, whatever, whatever it is that's going to help. But really appreciate what you shared, Geraldine, of just like so much has like occurred in your journey, right? And just how you've continued to evolve yourself, and like that last point you made about like how you're seeing all of these like bridges and alignment with all of this work and experience and life experience you've collected. So really excited to see that happen. And I know we're all sending good vibes for that next position too. So I'm excited for that for you. I want to kind of get all of your insights about like what are some of your recommendations for, breaking into tech, but also like how do you kind of like carve that space out? Like how do you know that this is where you should be, or that's the right role or the right team? And I know, Geraldine, you sort of started to hit on that, so maybe you can kind of start off there. But just like, what were some of those questions, reflections, things you were thinking about that helped you figure out like, what is that space for you?
So for me, I'm a very intuition-led person, and I don't know if everybody else is like that here, but I feel like usually my gut tells me like, nah, this is not for you, or like, yeah, this is the spot for you. So for me, I was like, let me give tech a try. Let me give sales a try and figure out if it's for me. I very quickly, and this happens with every job, within the first 3 months, I can figure out if I'm going to be there for past a year or if I'm going to bounce before the year is up. And I know that that's a little bit controversial. People are like job hopping before you complete a year at a job. Like, I don't know, but I also think that times are changing, especially with Gen Z and the up and coming generations. Like they're just putting their foot down. So for me, I realized within the first 3 months if I'm gonna stay there or not. I realize this through, I feel like a lot of people don't realize that they can choose their manager and how they want to be managed. That's very important. So if there's not alignment with your manager, figure out what the misalignment is. Also figure out if there's if there's opportunities for you to grow in that company as well. I think that's very important for you to figure out like if I should stay at this company or not. And also finding your community within the company that you're at is very important for you to really like thrive in tech. I feel like it can feel very lonely sometimes, especially being a Latina, being an Afro-Latina like myself. Sometimes you just come into these spaces and you're like, yo, I'm the only one. And it can feel very, very lonely, but finding your community within those spaces is very important as well. And also just advocating for yourself at all times, advocating for your team. I did that a lot and I still do that. Like if I see my team is struggling, there's some people that may not be as vocal, but thank God that God gave me this mouth and I just don't know how to shut up. So I'm just like, I'm going to advocate for my team if they need support, they need more guidance on a certain project or something like that. And I feel like that's been able to help me advance my career as well within the tech space.
Oh, I love that. There were so many good nuggets there, gems that you were dropping around, like not just like the questions you should be asking yourself, but it's like you're not the only one in that working relationship. You've got your manager, you've got your team, you've got the company you work for. Like I love that you see that as like a whole system of support for you to figure out like what it is that is like what your space is. So I love that. Thank you so much. Let's go over Rebecca. I feel like you're gonna jump at the opportunity to say something there. But yeah, I'll turn it over to you. What are some recommendations for folks?
Yeah, you know, I love conversations like this. I feel like they can just go so many different ways and it's so important and so many things that Geraldine touched on 100%, like everything, especially the authenticity and like the belonging in the workspace, but also knowing when it aligns with you and what no one knows your potential more than yourself, you know, and being able to know what your value is and what you can bring to the table and using that voice. Like it's all so important. I'm a part of many of our ERG groups here at Instacart. We're really focusing on that belonging piece and just being able to have that community because we recognize how important it is for us to thrive in what we do and to thoroughly enjoy what we do. So I feel like even as you are looking to break into tech, know that you want to I'm a big person as it pertains to intentionality, like whether that's mind mapping or vision writing, anything that you can put on paper and really dig deep as to what it is that you want to seek out of your role and how that fulfills you and what you know you can provide also. And then being able to find even a group like, you know, the Tequeria Slack space or Latinas in Tech. There's so many external organizations, so many groups on LinkedIn or just Facebook or like social media is an incredible resource tool right now. And just being able to lean into all those different resources, all those different communities. Listen, we love to help one another out. We know that the numbers, you know, need to be better as far as our people that look like us in tech. So because of that, I don't know what session I was in earlier, but it resonated so much when it was about, you know, sending the elevator back up. Like, not to say because we're in tech, we've made it to like the top floor. Trust me, there's still a lot of work that we're continuing to break through, but we are happy to go down, pick anyone up on that elevator and help you get to what floor you want to go to. You know, I'm all about investing in yourself, being able to negotiate also like sponsorship, mentorship, sponsorship, development. I believe in finding a career coach that can help, you know, light that path for you sometimes. All of it is so, so important. And as long as you put in the time and effort yourself to really dive into that and find your goals and who is going to be right there with you on that journey, I think it is so, so important. And sessions like this where we can connect with one another, like we're dropping our LinkedIn, reach out. We love to give this time back because we know what struggle we went through and are continuing to go through some days. I don't know if it's ever that we have it all figured out, but I think we're always here to help one another out, however it is. And there was another session today. The sessions have been so great, but about like our birthright, like we are here to take up space. And once we're here, use the voice, use all the resources that are out there, and spread the word, tell your friends and family what you do. Let your family also see, like, you don't only have to do what you see. You can also like dream big and go after that, right? I think that's what happens a lot to our community is we kind of just see what everyone else is doing and we think that that's the only way. And it's not until we realize like, I can go outside, I can break all this cycle, I can go outside of the box, I can do what makes me happy versus just surviving and bringing home the bread, right? It's really, really important that our headspace, our heart, it's all in it, because the type of people that we are, we give 1,000%, right? So we want to make sure we're also investing in ourselves and all of that. Sorry, I know I talked a lot there.
I love that. You're getting a lot of love for what you said in the chat. I hope you're seeing that, Rebecca. But yes, absolutely. I mean, I think you hit on so many different layers of that question, right? I mean, from the practical, like get a coach, make a plan, like be intentional, right? Also to just kind of that, like who surrounds us, right? And both how we support and help, but also how we are helped and supported as well by community. I know our keynote Sara yesterday was talking about like, it takes a village, right? Like this is our village. Like this is why this is like one of the happiest times of year for me during this summit, because it's like, this is the community. Like I always know it's there, obviously with Slack and everything, but it's like, I see it here in front of me. Like it's real, it's tangible. So I just love that you reminded us about that piece as well. Love that. Thank you so much. And then Jimena, for you, what are some of those recommendations? Not just breaking into tech, but claiming our space.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I'm very inspired what Rebecca and Geraldine have mentioned about building community and finding support both internally and externally. I do want to take a moment just to address when you don't necessarily feel like you have the space or you have the opportunity to find those people. I definitely grew up in a tech environment that was not like that. We weren't easily able to connect. I'd say I found Techadia maybe in 2017, and I felt like, wow, I'd finally found a community, and I learned a lot about myself and just was exposed to a lot more of Latinx people in tech. And so I was really inspired by that. So obviously by being here, like this is the first step to breaking into tech, is to finding this community and figuring out what other people can do. I definitely want to reiterate what Rebecca said, which is finding mentors or sponsors. And those can be people outside of, I guess, like the traditional path that you're looking at. So right now, for example, I'm mentoring. So I'm a technical recruiting manager, but I'm mentoring a junior engineer because we have a similar background, and there is so much nuance to navigating the tech world that doesn't necessarily have to do with your specific job or your skill set. And so I think being able to find those people, and like Geraldine was mentioning with the elevator, I am now at that position deep into my career where I'm trying to support more junior people. And I'm, like Rebecca said, very excited to be able to help promote those other people. I have a cousin who's now a freshman at SDSU, and she's getting her degree in software engineering. And this is where I think like talking to people even in your family network can be important, because I don't think she knows my knowledge of the tech community, and I would love to help her. And I know that as somebody who's 18, I'll definitely have to go to her and proactively say, like, come to me, let me help you. I can give you recommendations on internships. I can talk to you about negotiation. So I think being able to find those people that are willing to support you is a really critical part about making that space. And so the one other thing I will say about also navigating an environment that does not have that support network is sometimes you have to make people uncomfortable by taking up the space and being a really it's like productive and important part of the team, that even if people aren't used to seeing people like you or folks who have the same skin tone as you, you are all of a sudden making them aware that this is a really powerful part of the tech community and that they should take a second look when they're thinking about candidates in the pipeline. But it can be tough when everyone in the room is possibly a white male. I experience that very often working primarily with technical teams, but I think that there's so much at stake if I don't take the opportunity to help others. And I'm really happy to be in that position. So just wanted to reemphasize to go to those people, build that relationship, even if you don't know how exactly they might be able to support you.
Thank you so much for calling that out. I really appreciate, and it's a great segue for kind of our next topic. But I think, yeah, it's like, as much as we're talking about sort of the aspirational and positive things, doesn't mean that it's an easy journey to get there. And so I'd love to, and Jimena, you can kick us off, as it was a nice little segue to that, but just talk a little bit more about like some of those challenges that you face. So, you know, you're trying to like make your space, put your elbows out, but what are those repercussions that you felt, or what are some of those maybe not so positive things that have happened, just so that our community can also know that, like, hey, that's going to be a little bit of the process, right? But again, we're here to support you through that, but just know that it's not all roses and flowers, right?
Yeah. So I actually think that one of the biggest things I had to overcome, and I actually see a lot of people having to overcome, is imposter syndrome. And that's why I've been so impressed with how the other two speakers have talked about their experiences and the confidence that they feel. Because 3 years in, 4 years in, 5 years in, I definitely was not in that place. I think it took until closer to 6 to 7 years to really feel a lot of confidence in what I'm able to do and how I'm able to contribute. And now when I go into meetings, I know I'm the subject matter expert. I know that I can guide and direct people in the way that they need to be guided in order to make good hires or think critically about the interview process. And I'm fully confident what I'm able to do. So I actually think that is a big piece to overcome, whether you are Latinx, whether you're just a woman in tech. Like, there are so many people that do suffer from this, although it is typically these types of underrepresented communities. And so I think being able to build that confidence in the work that you're doing, in the space that you're taking up, is one of the biggest challenges. But once you gain that, you are so free. Like, I feel so free now in my career to make hard decisions or to be creative, to create strategy, to work with others, to manage up, for sure, to talk to senior leadership and C-suite and give them my opinions and direction. So that's my one thing that's the hardest, but so freeing when you overcome it.
I love that. Yes, those internal messages and dialogue that we have with ourselves is definitely one of those the biggest barriers, right? Sometimes we get in our own way a little bit, and we take what other people are sort of messaging to us subliminally and kind of turn it around on ourselves. I'll go over to Rebecca. So what are some of those challenges that you've faced, especially being someone who's transitioned into tech? You came from a whole other industry, so things might have looked and felt a little different. But what are some of those challenges you've faced?
I feel like at first, I'm even thinking back to days of layoff, right? I was laid off for about a year and a half almost, and it was so draining to apply and apply and apply and just not get too much, headway in moving forward. And that was really hard. The mental roadblocks are there. The imposter syndrome, even not, like, it's continuous work. So I feel like there's always going to be those whispers in our head of why we think we're not qualified for something, or why we think we're not good enough, or comparing ourselves, and all of that just steals that moment, and we're dimming ourselves by doing that. So it's something that continuously trying to work on being in the right state when you're putting yourself out there, knowing your worth, not giving up. The perseverance is so important. And that's all that's like the biggest piece of advice is like, I started to keep track of applications I was sending out. I had a spreadsheet going. And just, I think another difficult thing sometimes is that it's so easy for us to just get comfortable where we're at. And not even realize that maybe I'm burnt out, or maybe this isn't fulfilling me anymore and I'm not providing the best version of myself, let alone like producing or anything along those lines, right? So I think it's really important to always check in with yourself and know that what you're doing is what you set out to do, and wanting to continue to work on yourself and invest on yourself and not giving up.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Yes, the perseverance and the persistence definitely comes into play. And those spreadsheets, raise your hand if you've got that job search spreadsheet. I know I've got one. It's fun though. It is. I did open one recently, and it goes back to like 2010 or something. And I was like looking at the jobs I was applying to then, and I was like, I'm having a proud moment. Like, we have grown, we have evolved. So those spreadsheets will come in handy later, I promise. All right, Geraldine, we want to hear from you. What are some of those challenges? What are things that, you know, have just been those barriers, that tension, right? Within yourself, with other people. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, really quickly, I want to bring up the spreadsheets now that y'all are on that topic. Seeing rejection, I don't know if y'all had a column that was like whether you received the offer or not. And this is actually where my first book title came from, because I kept writing rejected, rejected, rejected. And then I was like, no, it's a reroute, it's a redirection. And my first book title was Reroute. And I literally was like, it's really a mindset thing. And you really have to realize, like, it's not you. There's something better on the way. So I want to affirm that for everybody out there. And also as somebody that just went through a layoff, it's not you. There's something better out there. I promise you. I guarantee that. Also, getting feedback from managers and team members is so important, and has allowed me to also deal with imposter syndrome. Because even with my most recent layoff, I had people write me. I worked directly with students, and all of them were just like, you are incredible. You are a light. Like, they were on this call crying, and they were just like, my manager, she wrote me afterwards, and she was just like, secretly, I hope that we could find the budget by January, because we want to bring you back, type of thing. Because she was just like, you're irreplaceable. Like, you're just very special. So getting that type of feedback from my manager, from my team members, from the students that I worked with, allowed me to be like, you know what? Like, I'm that girl, essentially. Like Beyonce said, I'm really that girl. On top of that, if there is no factual evidence supporting the backing your imposter syndrome sentiments, let it go. Like, legit, it's simple like that. Let it go. Anytime I feel myself getting imposter syndrome, I'm just like, imposter to who? There's no factual evidence saying that I am an imposter and I don't belong here. So I'm letting it go, and I'm dropping it like a grain of salt. Also, one of the biggest challenges that I did deal with, which is a little bit heavier, is dealing with racism. So I don't have my hair on right now, but I do have a fro naturally. My hair is very curly, very, you know, very va-va-boom, vivacious. And I remember I was at an event, and this white woman was like, oh, like, your hair is so beautiful, and about to touch my hair. And she's like, what do you do to it? And, you know, out of curiosity, but I'm just like, girl, don't touch my hair. Don't go there. And, you know, we're at a professional event, so I'm not going to be like going crazy and stuff like that. I'll just be like, respectfully, don't touch my hair. That's a little disrespectful. And I remember also dealing with racism in many other areas, but specifically when I was fired from a previous company, there was somebody that was hired the same exact day as me, a white male. He was coasting. He didn't close any deals. Within my first 3 months, I have sourced over $100,000 in deals. And I was the one that was fired ultimately. And he stayed there for several months after. And I'm just like, okay, I see a common theme here. Like, I understand what the issue really was here. And I respect it. It was, again, rerouting me to a better destiny, better purpose, better direction. So yeah, that's some of the challenges that I faced while being in tech.
Thank you so much for that, Geraldine. And I think especially, I think part of what I was receiving in your message was just the, like, really separating the feedback from, like, that's someone else's problem versus is there any evidence of something I can learn and grow from as you go through your reroute, redirection. And I think that is super important. I know a lot of people are giving you props in the chat for what you just said, because it's true, right? Like, it's so easy in those moments to be like, oh no, I'm not good enough, or oh, it's my fault, or I could have done something differently. And the reality is, like, you know, sexism, racism, colorism, like all of that is showing up for us in so many different ways. And sometimes it can be hidden or subtle that we don't even know that that's what's happened to us. And so we internalize this, like, we're not good enough, or, oh, this isn't for me, etc. And then we carry that with us. Like, we carry that into the next job and the next job and the next job. And it's sort of like forever, like this rock we carry. Oh, okay. Wow. We covered a lot. We're getting a lot of great feedback in the chat. I just want to appreciate all three of you for your openness. I know these are not easy topics, but they're definitely things we need to talk about as a community. And let me see. Okay. We have a question in the chat. Maybe panelists, if you want to check that out and maybe add some, I don't know, can you see the Q&A, panelists? Okay, if you want to reply there while I close things out. But we like to do a little fun fact question as our wrap up, just to get to know you all. We just covered a lot. So what's your go-to karaoke song? I'm looking, thinking. Come off of mute if you're ready, if you've got your answer.
I'll be vulnerable. So I only do this when I've had a couple libations, and it's embarrassing because I have so much confidence going into the song, and my husband always reminds me, like, you can't, maybe choose a different one. It's Lose Yourself by Eminem. So again, the confidence starts off very strong, and then there's a segment halfway through with like the Mekhi Phifer stuff, and I do okay again, but it's bad. Every time I'm like, I can do it. This time's different. The next day I'll end up listening to that song like 20 times to try and get better and better, but it's embarrassing.
We give you props for trying. That's a hard one. That's a hard one to do. Rebecca, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned like the confidence and, you know, the build up, the libation, that I get it. And mine is, I'm not trying to fill the shoes or anything, but I don't know why this song brings me back to my childhood, singing with the hairbrush. Like, I think I recorded myself singing, and I really thought I was Whitney Houston, but it's I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. And when I heard back, when the first time I recorded myself, I'm just like, oh, I can never sing again. But it's Whitney Houston in my car. I think I am her. It's either Whitney Houston or like Selena. Those are my go-tos, I feel like.
Wow, you pick the big voices, Rebecca. We love that.
Not that I think that big of myself, but
I mean, if you want to share the recording, I think we would all be very inclined to watch it. All right, and Geraldine, what is your go-to karaoke song?
So I do have a secret talent. I have been singing since I was 8 years old. So I do love singing. I think my go-to karaoke song would also be Whitney Houston. I feel like that song just hits different. Or Titanic, the Titanic song by Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On. I sung that one time at a resort, and my family, this was probably like 15 years ago, and my family does not let that memory go. Every time we're together at a family function, they're like, Jera, tiene que cantar la canción del Titanic, la canción del Titanic. And every single time I have to sing it, because if not, they're going to be mad at me. So definitely either Celine Dion or Whitney Houston. But I also love Christina Aguilera. She's one of my favorites.
Also the big voices. Well, we've got a professional singer here on our stage, but you're saved by the bell because we do have to say goodbye. We've got so much other sessions and things happening today, but I do want to say thank you so much to Jimena, Rebecca, and Geraldine for the amazing wisdom and insight. I know you've helped a lot of folks figure out kind of where they are right now and where they're headed next. So I just want to thank you so much and thank our audience for being so involved. Please connect with them on LinkedIn. I know you all have many more questions, so please connect and have those chats. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.